The problem with tequila and family kitchens is that eventually somebody says the quiet part out loud. In this case, that somebody was Ava's little sister. And no, I was not prepared. By the time it happened, the party was mostly over. Her parents' backyard was a mess of half-empty glasses, folded patio chairs, and string lights still glowing over a lawn nobody wanted to clean until morning. It had been their 30th anniversary dinner, which meant good food, too much wine, sentimental speeches, and at least 3 relatives asking when Ava was finally going to bring home someone serious. I had been there for all of it because I was always there. My name's Ryan, and Ava Bennett had been the most constant person in my life for almost 8 years. We met in college when she stole the seat across from me in a crowded campus bar and said, "You look like someone who can tell if a first date is going badly." I looked past her shoulder at the guy she'd clearly escaped from and said, "It is if you're already planning your exit route." She laughed, sat down anyway, and made me help her fake a phone call from her cousin in Ohio. 20 minutes later, we were eating fries together like we'd known each other for years. That was how it started. Then somehow she stayed. Study sessions, late grocery runs, apartment moves, phone calls that began with, "Can I vent for 30 seconds, Bahawi?" and ended 90 minutes later. The kind of friendship that builds slowly and then one day, you realize half your routines orbit another person. Ava was sharp, funny, impossible to rush, and way too good at pretending something wasn't bothering her. She worked in marketing for a fashion startup now. I managed operations for a boutique hotel group. Different worlds, same city, same habit of ending up in each other's lives 3 or 4 times a week without really planning to. People noticed, of course. They always do. Her father once watched Ava steal a bite off my plate, criticize my jacket, and lean against me during a movie night, then muttered, "I've seen less married behavior from actual married couples." Ava threw a pillow at him. I laughed because that was easier than answering. That was always the pattern with us. Easy, close. A little too easy maybe, but never quite crossing the line. Not because I'd never thought about it. I had. Plenty. The problem was that Ava had dated other guys over the years, and I was not interested in being the man who made one wrong move and lost the best friendship I'd ever had. So I did the adult thing, which in my case meant being honest with myself privately and careful with her publicly. That seemed wiser. Most of the time. Tonight was dangerous from the beginning. Ava looked unfairly good in a dark blue dress that should honestly have come with a warning label. Not dramatic, not overdone. Just elegant enough to make every time she laughed feel like a personal attack. I'd helped carry trays, opened wine, rescued one melting cake situation, and survived 2 hours of relatives asking if I was the one. I had smiled and said, "No, just the unpaid labor." Ava had looked at me from across the kitchen with that expression she got when she was trying not to smile too hard. By 11, the older relatives were gone. Her parents had gone upstairs, and only 4 of us were left in the kitchen. Me, Ava, her cousin Paige, and her younger sister Lily. Lily was 21, loud in a lovable way, and had the kind of mouth that moved faster than her judgment once she had alcohol in her system. Which tonight, unfortunately, she did. Paige left first, claiming an early shift. That left the 3 of us sitting at the kitchen island with a half-finished bottle of tequila and 1 tray of abandoned mini desserts. Ava had kicked off her heels and tucked 1 bare foot under her. Lily was leaning across the counter explaining with deep personal conviction why nobody should ever trust men who say they just like to keep things casual. I took another sip and said, "That sounds specific." "It is specific," Lily said. Ava pointed at her with a churro. "Don't start." "I'm not starting anything. I'm ending a pattern." "A terrifying sentence," I said. Ava laughed, and when she did, she leaned against my shoulder for a second like it was the most natural thing in the world. That tiny contact did what it always did. It made me aware of everything. The warmth of her arm. The smell of her perfume. The fact that being around her had never once become casual for me, no matter how hard I tried to act like I had this under control. Then her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen, groaned, and slid off the stool. "It's Emily from work." If I don't answer, she'll assume the event disaster tomorrow is somehow about her. Lily lifted her glass. Tell her she's right. Ava ignored that and looked at me. Don't let her bully the tiramisu while I'm gone. No promises. She walked into the hallway with her phone, and the second she disappeared, Lily turned to me with the reckless intensity of a woman who had just remembered a thought she should absolutely not say aloud. Oh my God, she said, staring at me. That was never the opening to anything good. I frowned. What? Lily looked toward the hallway, then back at me. You seriously don't know? I laughed once. That depends on what you think I'm supposed to know. She pointed at me with her spoon. Every guy she dates? Every single one? She compares them to you. I went still, completely still. Lily, realizing too late that she had just launched a grenade into the room, covered her mouth with one hand. Then she whispered, "Oh no." And at that exact moment, Ava walked back into the kitchen. Ava stopped 3 steps into the kitchen. Lily had gone statue still on her stool, spoon halfway to her mouth, eyes wide with the exact expression of a woman who had just remembered consequences existed. I was sitting there with a glass in my hand and apparently every useful social instinct gone. Ava looked from Lily to me and narrowed her eyes. What? Lily recovered first, which was unfortunate for everyone. Nothing, she said too fast. Ava blinked once. That sounded guilty before it even finished leaving your mouth. Wow, Lily said, nodding like she was impressed with herself. Harsh. Family should feel safer than this. Ava leaned one hip against the island. What did you say? Nothing bad. That is not the reassuring version. Lily looked at me. I looked at the counter. That was answer enough. Ava's whole face changed. Not angry, worse. Alert. She set her phone down slowly and said, very calmly, Ryan, why do you suddenly look like a man who has heard a classified briefing? Lily made a small, doomed sound into her glass. I should have lied. A clean lie, maybe. Something harmless. Something that kept us all alive for another 20 minutes. But I was a little drunk, very off balance, and deeply tired of pretending Ava and I were just an especially committed public service announcement about boundaries. So I went with the safest, honest thing I had. Your sister may have said something she did not mean to say, Lily whispered. I absolutely meant to say it, just not out loud. Ava closed her eyes. Oh my God, she muttered. The room went quiet. Then Ava pointed at Lily. Water. Now. Lily slid off the stool muttering, this family hates truth, and shuffled toward the sink. Ava turned back to me. What did she say? I hesitated. That was enough. Her cheeks changed before the rest of her face did. Not full blush, just a flood of color climbing up too fast to hide. And that was answer enough too. Ava exhaled once through her nose and looked at the ceiling like patience was being rationed. Lily. Again, Lily said, filling a glass. I would like the record to show that I'm the only brave person in this kitchen. Go upstairs. What? Go upstairs before I sell you to a monastery. Lily looked delighted. So it was that. Lily. Fine, she said, already backing toward the hall. Then, because she feared God too little, she pointed at both of us and added, You're welcome, before vanishing. Silence. Ava and I were alone. The dishwasher hummed. One of the string lights outside flickered through the window above the sink. Somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked under what I assumed was Lily's continued, terrible judgment. Ava folded her arms, unfolded them, picked up my empty plate, then put it back down without doing anything useful with it. Finally, she said, Well, strong opening. I'm trying not to die. That seems dramatic. That seems fair. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Ava noticed and pointed at me. No, you do not get to enjoy this. I am not enjoying this. You look a little like you are. I look like someone who just found out he has apparently been part of a private comparison chart. That got her. A real laugh, short and mortified, and impossible not to love. She covered her face with one hand. I hate both of you. only fair if I get to know what category I won. Ava dropped her hand and stared at me. You are being weirdly calm. I am not calm. No? No. I set my glass down. I'm trying very hard not to ask the wrong question first. That changed the air in the room. Ava's expression softened, but only slightly, like she appreciated the effort and was still afraid of where it might go. Then she asked more quietly, "What's the right question?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the bare feet, the blue dress, the way one hand was now gripping the edge of the counter like she needed somewhere to put her nerves. And because I had learned something from the last story we just told each other in comments, I did not choose the stupid route. I didn't joke. I didn't pout. I didn't act offended. I just asked the clean truth. Was she wrong? Ava held my gaze for one long second, then she looked down. Not out of shame. More like she needed the floor for a second because my face had become too dangerous to study directly. No, she said. One word. Flat, honest, impossible to mishear. My heartbeat reacted before the rest of me caught up. Ava tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear and gave a small, helpless shrug. She was drunk and tactless, but not wrong. The kitchen suddenly felt too small. I stepped off the stool. Ava. She shook her head once. No, let me say this before I lose the nerve. She looked up at me again, and now there was nothing casual left in her expression. Yes, I compare people to you. Not in some checklist way, not because you're perfect. A tiny, shaky smile. You're not. Rude. You'll live. Then her voice lowered. It's because you ruined normal for me. That landed so hard I forgot how to speak. Ava's eyes stayed on mine. Every guy I date, she said quietly. Sooner or later, I realize I'm waiting for him to listen the way you do, or make me laugh the way you do, or notice when I'm lying about being fine the way you do. She swallowed once. And they don't. Because they're not you. The whole night tilted. Not dramatically, just enough that I knew nothing about it was recoverable in the old way anymore. I opened my mouth, closed it again. Ava let out one breath and looked suddenly furious with herself for being brave. There. Now, if you say something devastating, at least I can blame tequila and my sister. I took one step toward her, then another. And when I stopped in front of her, close enough that the whole room had narrowed down to one impossible truth and the woman who had just said it, I asked the only question that mattered now. If it's always me, then why have we both been pretending it isn't? Ava looked at me like I had just taken a locked door, turned the handle, and asked why it had been closed so long. Then she let out a quiet, unsteady laugh. Because, she said, we were good at this. At what? At being almost something. That line stayed between us, not dramatic, not loud, just painfully accurate. I leaned one hand on the counter beside her. That's not really an answer. I know. She glanced toward the hallway where Lily had disappeared, then back at me. But it's the truest short version. I nodded once. Give me the longer one. Ava took a breath. The kind that says fine, but if I do this, we're not going back. We've been in each other's lives for 8 years, she said. You were there when my first real job made me miserable. You were there when my grandmother got sick. You were there when I moved twice in 1 year and cried in a Target parking lot because I couldn't find my coffee maker and took it as a personal attack. A tiny smile flickered. You know me in a way that's built, Ryan, not guessed. I know. That was the problem. I frowned. How is that the problem? Because if I got this wrong, she said quietly, I wouldn't just lose a guy I liked. I'd lose you, the actual you. Tuesday night takeout you, ride to the airport you. The person I call when life gets weird or wonderful or both. That landed. Hard. Not because I hadn't thought some version of it before, because hearing her say it out loud made it impossible to hide behind anything safer. Ava's fingers were still curled around the edge of the counter. I could see the tension in them. And then time passed, she said. And the longer nothing happened, the more it started to feel fixed. Like maybe this was what we were meant to be, and maybe wanting more was selfish. I shook my head immediately. It wouldn't have been selfish. She gave me a look. That is a very convenient opinion to have now. Fair. I exhaled. Okay, then my turn. Ava straightened just a little, bracing. I didn't say anything, I told her, because you mattered too much to risk making you uncomfortable. And because every time I thought maybe there was something there, the timing got messy. You were seeing someone. Or I was trying to convince myself not to complicate the one relationship in my life that actually worked. Her eyes softened. Not because it was romantic, because she understood it. I added, never wanted to be the guy who made your life harder just because I couldn't keep my feelings organized. That changed her face. Something in it melted. Oh, she said quietly. Yeah. We stood there in the yellow kitchen light, close enough to hear each other breathe. Both of us apparently discovering that the same fear had been wearing two different coats this whole time. Ava looked down once, then back up. So we've basically been protecting the same thing from each other? That seems offensively accurate. A laugh escaped her before she could stop it. Then she bit her lip and asked, Were you ever going to tell me? I answered honestly. Yes. That surprised her. I could tell because her brows lifted a fraction. Really? Yes, I just didn't know when. I gave her a helpless shrug. There never seemed to be a version that didn't sound like I was trying to set a bomb down gently. Ava smiled. You've had metaphors ready for this? I've had a distressing amount of internal material, actually. That got another laugh out of her. Good. The room needed it. Then the laughter faded and something quieter took its place. Not awkward, just open. Ava's voice dropped. Can I tell you something worse? Please don't say you made a spreadsheet. Ryan, that wasn't a no. She rolled her eyes. I did not make a spreadsheet. But there was a night last fall when I had a date with that finance guy. Trevor. The fact that you remember his name is horrifying. He had loafers with no socks. I remember crimes. Ava covered a smile with one hand. Anyway, I came home from that date and sat in my car for 20 minutes, because all I could think was that I'd spent 2 hours with a perfectly nice man wishing I was telling the story to you already. My pulse kicked hard enough that I felt it in my throat. She went on, quieter now. That was the night I realized this wasn't just a passing thing I needed to get over. I looked at her for a long second, then I said, Ava, if I'd known that, you probably would have done exactly what you're doing right now. Tried to be careful. She wasn't wrong. That should have frustrated me. Instead, it made me weirdly grateful. Because it meant she had seen me clearly even inside my silence. I reached for her then, slowly, giving her every chance in the world to pull back. She didn't. My hand closed gently around hers. Ava looked down at our hands like it was both the most natural and most dangerous thing that had ever happened in that kitchen. Ryan, she said softly. Before I could answer, footsteps sounded in the hallway. Lily reappeared carrying a bag of chips she absolutely did not need, took one look at us standing there hand in hand and froze. Then she whispered, with the reverence of a woman witnessing history, Oh my God, I actually fixed it. Ava dropped her head. Leave. I should, Lily agreed, but I am also deeply invested. Lily. Fine, fine. She backed away, pointing at both of us. But for the record, if you two waste this, I will become unbearable. She vanished again. Ava laughed helplessly into her free hand. I smiled. She's not wrong. Ava lowered her hand and looked at me. Really looked. Then, in a voice that was suddenly very small and very honest, she said, Ryan, if we stop pretending now, I don't think I can go back to how this was before. I squeezed her hand once. Good, I said quietly, because I don't want to go back either. Her breath caught, and just as she started to step closer, her mother's voice floated down the stairs. Why is nobody cleaning this kitchen? Ava closed her eyes and muttered, This family is a curse. I laughed softly, but when she opened her eyes again, there was no retreat left in them. Only one unfinished thing. And we both knew exactly what it was. Ava's mother called down again, louder this time. If I come downstairs and find tequila glasses fossilizing on my counter, I'm disowning all of you. Ava looked at me, still close enough that her hand was warm in mine, and whispered, "See? Curse." I smiled. We should probably prevent the disowning. Probably. Neither of us moved right away. That was the problem. Once you stop pretending, even a kitchen you've stood in 100 times starts feeling different. Charged, narrower somehow. Like the whole room knows something has changed and is waiting to see if you're brave enough to act like it. Ava let go of my hand first, but only because she had to grab plates. We cleaned in a kind of dazed teamwork. Me loading the dishwasher, her stacking dessert plates, both of us hyper-aware in the most ridiculous ways. Every time our shoulders brushed, it felt louder than Lily's entire personality. And Lily, of course, reappeared 2 minutes later. She leaned in the doorway, eating chips she had absolutely gone upstairs to find, as an excuse to spy, and said, "I just want to say that history often misunderstands heroes at first." Ava didn't even turn around. "Go away. I'm not staying. I'm curating the emotional atmosphere." "You are one sentence away from being thrown into the yard," I said. Lily grinned. "Worth it." Then their mother came down, took one look at the three of us, and immediately understood more than I was comfortable with. Not the details, just the shift. Mothers do that. She set a serving tray on the counter and looked between Ava and me. "You two seem weird." Lily made a choking sound into her chips. Ava pointed at her. "This one is why." Her mother narrowed her eyes. "That explains nothing." "It's late," Ava said quickly. "Everyone's tired." That was technically true, but not helpful. Her mother studied us for one more second, then, because apparently the women in this family were terrifying in different directions, she just smiled very slightly and said, "Mm-hmm." Then she went back upstairs. Lily looked delighted. "Oh, she knows." Ava grabbed a dish towel and threw it at her face. By the time the kitchen was done, the house had gone quiet. The string lights still glowed softly out back, and through the window the yard looked silver blue and still. Lily finally disappeared for real, after promising she expected progress by sunrise. Ava groaned. "I am never speaking to her again." "You absolutely will." "I know, it's upsetting." We stood there alone in the clean kitchen, the silence settling in around us properly now. No dishes, no interruptions, no place left to hide behind chores. Then Ava nodded toward the back door. "Come outside with me." I followed her into the yard. The night air was cool enough to clear the tequila out of my head and leave everything else sharper. The string lights hung over the patio, throwing that soft amber glow over the chairs and the half-folded tablecloths, and Ava stopped near the far edge of the deck where the noise of the house couldn't reach us. She wrapped her arms around herself and looked out at the dark lawn. "I keep trying to figure out what the right thing to say here is. You don't have to get it perfect." "That's easy for you to say." "No," I said, stepping beside her. "It really isn't." That made her turn to me. I took a breath. Then I said the thing I should have said a long time ago, only now I said it without hiding behind caution so hard that it killed the truth. "I've loved being your best friend," I told her. I never took that lightly. But I think part of why I was always so careful is because, somewhere along the way, I wanted more than that. And I knew it. Ava's face softened. Not surprised. Just relieved. "I know," she said quietly. That got me. "You knew?" "Not all at once. But enough." She smiled a little. "You're good at hiding, Ryan. You're not good at not caring." Fair. I stepped closer. "Then here's the part I don't want to hide anymore. If every guy gets compared to me..." I held her eyes. "I'd really like a chance to stop being the comparison and actually be the one." Ava's breath caught. Then she laughed softly, the kind that shows up when someone has spent too long bracing and suddenly doesn't have to. "That," she said, "is annoyingly good." "I worked hard on it." "No, you didn't." "True." She was smiling now, but her eyes had gone bright in a way that made the whole night feel suddenly fragile and important at once. Then she asked very quietly, "So, what happens now?" "Now?" I said. I take you on a real date. A real date? Yes, on purpose. Not as your family's favorite unpaid laborer. Not as the safe guy in the kitchen after midnight. An actual date. Ava tilted her head. And if I say yes? I try not to look unbearably smug. You will fail. Probably. She looked at me for one long second, then she said, yes. Just that. Simple. Certain. Enough to change everything. I touched her face, gave her time to stop me, and when she didn't, I kissed her. No tequila haze, no misunderstanding, no audience except a backyard full of string lights, and the distant possibility that Lily was absolutely peeking through a curtain somewhere. Ava kissed me back like the answer had been waiting longer than either of us wanted to admit. When we pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine and whispered, "My sister is going to be unbearable forever." She earned it a little. She really did. A month later, she still brought that night up whenever she wanted to annoy me. Lily referred to herself as the architect of destiny. Ava and I went on our real date, then another after that, and the strange part was how natural it all felt. Not sudden, not fragile, just right in a way that made me wonder why we'd both spent so long calling it something smaller. What would you have done if you were sitting in your best friend's family kitchen after a few drinks, and her little sister suddenly blurted out that she compares every guy she dates to you? And have you ever gone through something like that with someone you weren't supposed to want? Tell me your story in the comments. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.